Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. Last week on YouTube I was listening to Planet Far Gone, and on there Al was talking about, well, lots of different things that were quite interesting actually. One of them quickly was to do with the food we eat and content chemicals that are put in it. And I know I've mentioned this previously, and it always worries me when you look at a back of anything or a jar or something, you'll find lots of chemical names in there, and you're thinking, why do you need all these chemicals in this food? I mean, we've gone so far from how we started with just natural, fruit and veg that we used to sort of pulp and make into different things, pickles and all that kind of stuff. And now we're adding, I guess a lot of it is to preserve it and make it last longer. I don't know whether we can get around that, but I don't know whether all these chemicals that are in these things are for that. But there seems to be so many, different chemicals inside food. So, listening to Planet Far Gone, it was quite interesting how, there might be bits in there that, we know food does affect our moods. Maybe making us more, dumbing us down, or especially in the West where we eat a lot of food and it makes us lazy and tired. Anyway, the other thing I was going to talk about that he was mentioning was he asked a question about what do we do now, and it's the most difficult question other than the question of why. That's probably the most difficult question when people ask you, like, why would they lie, why would they do this, because that's, you have to try and circumnavigate the system that you're living in and make people aware that we're living in a system and it's a fiction and things aren't as they seem, as it were. But I couldn't answer the question really. The only thing I can think of is just like spreading the message like we're doing, communicating the different things that we find, and that eventually each person that we influence is one more person. And I'm not saying that as a religious thing or a cult thing. My understanding of what I'm doing is it's the pursuit of truth, isn't it? I'm trying to find my end goal is, or my motivation is, I want people, or me, and the people I know, and mankind in general, to live a happier and healthier and nicer life. Where we don't have all the suffering. I know I've mentioned all these things previously. So that's my motivation. But the thing is, how do you, once you know all this information, once you know that, we're living part of a fiction, and a lot of the things that we think we know, we don't know. There's a lot of information that we take for granted. There's a lot of information we take for granted. You've only got to switch on YouTube and some of these enlightened channels, and you hear things that make you think, and then you realise, whoa, wait a minute, I never even thought about that. I've been, doing this, that and the other. We're not even, because all we're giving is basics. And there's a lot of faith that goes into living in this life, in this system. We take a lot for granted. We know so little of the things that we actually believe and do. That's quite scary when you think about it that way. But so I don't know what the answer is. How do we... I mean, the thing is, when you walk out in the street and people are just carrying about their lives, irrespective, they're just... Because we've been programmed, as it were, isn't it? From birth, through school, through state education, to... that our life is about having a family, having a job, getting a house, having a car, going on holiday, all those things. And I'm not saying there's bad things about these things, but we don't often have time to stop and think or change. So it was a very frustrating question, but an important one to be asking, because there's a lot of us on YouTube who we all know now that we've been lied to. We all know, we're all at different levels and we all have different understandings. And I'm not saying, I may believe something that might not actually be true, or someone else might, and all that kind of business. No one's perfect. That's the endeavour of truth. Is never one you can actually attain, as it were. It's something you walk towards. But the problem is that, say, all of us, we know that, that the way we live isn't the best way. It's not the only way, and we could change, and we could be a better species, and we could be more open to truth and not have to just believe things because it's the easiest way, or a lot of the things I've mentioned previously that I don't want to go into because it's going to go too tangled if I do that. But if we all were to suddenly all die out, say there's I don't know how many people are on this planet, and how many people know these truths that are varied, different things. Obviously through generations, people die out, and the thoughts and their ways die with them. So I guess the most important thing is to communicate. Well, that's what this species has been doing since time immemorial, isn't it? Because if our understanding dies with us, then the circle of lies and deceit in this life will just continue again. So I guess the main aim is for us to all communicate and try to make aware every one of these things, so that we can become a better species. And whether you're a 9/11 truther or a flat earther or Sandy Hook or whatever different truths you've come to know, if we can correct ourselves as a species, these things will fall into line. That's what I believe. If we become the thing is, the way we are at the moment is what allows us to lie. Now, I don't know whether it is what's the word that I always use, whether we're born able to lie, or whether we're taught to lie. But that's one of our, if we can correct that, if we can correct the life that we're living, we can open our eyes and see that there's many different ways that we could live, and this way that we're living now is just one of them. Just understanding that, and then allowing us to try and make those changes. But the problem is I know I can hear people saying, in my own head saying, that the problem is there's just too many countries, too many people, too many leaders, too many ideas, and no one's ever going to come together, and no one's going to want to give up what they've got. The problem is we're too the system that we all think of, the life that we live, the way that we think, the fact that we believe in possessions, that we believe that we own things, even though we were born on this place, we don't even know where it came from, who gave it to us, and it's everyone's or no one's. It's not one particular person's, but we don't believe in that. We believe in possession. We believe in this land is mine. It's your heritage. It's your DNA. It's your ancestry. We believe in these groups and all these different things. And the problem is because we've believed in all this stuff that is interwoven into our minds and into our history, into our children and into our grandparents and us, that it's very difficult then to unweave all this. It's a bit this problem that we have to try and correct every person, if the whole planet, as it were, if that's the right term to use, is like a ball of string that once was all together and now is all tangled up, like a whole ball of string tangled in the most tangled possible way. And now to try and untangle that, seems like an impossibility. So I don't know, is it even possible what we're all wanting? We're all wanting people to live in peace and harmony, and people to live in truth and not need to lie and hide all these things from each other and, live this way that we're living. Are we too far gone? That's what really depresses me, because I don't know whether that it does seem to be the case to change, was it 7 billion people's mindsets to 7 billion people to suddenly realise that, wait a minute, this isn't the only way we can live. We can do it much better. It's our choice. We have actually made that choice to adopt this way that we're living. But we could live a different way, a better way, where all these things that we all moan about, you know, the starvation, the people dying of medicines when there's medicines already been made for, the lack of medical breakthroughs, the governments lying to us, staged events, truth about where we live and all the sciences and all those things. All of that could be sorted out, but the problem is we're just too, because we're already set in this, we're like clay that's already set now. To try and remould us is so difficult. So I don't know, even if we did come up with an idea of how to change it, how do you implement that? That's the problem, implementing the change of mankind. Well, that's the title. Alright, take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.